Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. For now, I'm going to hand over to Anga, who is our head of the African Youth Waste Network, just to quickly say a few words before we start with today's program.
Thank you so much, Tara. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today. I'm really excited to set the tone for this really important webinar and dialogues that we're currently having. Today, we are joined by our CEO, Tony Ribic, Dr. Tony Ribic, and also our head of department for networking, which is Dedre. And they will be also discussing their points and visions for Africa, and especially with the youth dialogue that we're currently hosting. And yeah, we're just setting this tone for the next three sessions that we're about to have. And yeah, I'm excited to hear what you guys are all currently doing in your respective countries. And I'll just hand over to Tony, and then it will be Didi, then I'll do the closing. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much for sharing your slides. I'd like to also welcome everybody who is attending. I've read the achievements of many of the people who've in fact submitted their CVs and will be playing a role in this series, and it's really very inspiring to see what the youth have achieved and in their own countries and elsewhere, and how they're representing those countries. And it's very impressive and inspiring, and I'd like to in fact congratulate them. But also from my perspective, what it does is it actually inspires me to think and confirms my feeling that the future does lie with the youth, and the future is actually looking a great deal better than one hoped. So congratulations to all of those who've in fact achieved so much, and let's take it from here. Now, in the few minutes that I've got, I'm going to focus really on only one item, and that is that we need to in fact translate all the talk that's taking place around the world into action, and actions particularly necessary within Africa. And I'm going to have the message then that the youth need to actually lead that action, because there's no doubt that old guys like me are not doing that. There's a lot of talk that's happening, and with the exception of a few countries and a few places, the action is not being developed as it should. So my next slide, please, Chara. Yeah, so when we stop to think of it, we all know about the problems with plastic and plastic waste. Yeah, so when we stop to think of it, we all know about the problems with plastic and plastic waste in Africa and elsewhere in the world. Next slide, please. And we know that the plastic is accumulating because the consumption patterns are changing. And we also know that collection within Africa is not what it could or should be. And so the plastic accumulates in the environment on land, and it then makes its way to the seas. But on land in particular, it has consequences for human and environmental health. It's affecting our domestic and wild animals. And domestically, of course, it's also affecting agriculture. And it's affecting very severely local and national economies. Yet there are opportunities for job creation, and also there's an impact on climate change that I'm going to come to in a moment. Next slide. Similarly to plastic, we all know the problems that's related to climate change and the impact that they are having globally, and they really are, in fact, quite serious. There's no day that goes past without some sort of indication somewhere in the world that there's a climate change catastrophe that is taking place, all impacting on humans. And the real bottom line is that while the prognoses principally focus on what's happening to the plastics, so not to the plastics, to the planet, the issue is that unless we do something about greenhouse gas emissions and take real action, our survival as humans on this planet is definitely in jeopardy. Next slide, please. The sort of talk that we know about is that every year there are international and quite a few international climate discussions. There's one taking place in Germany at the moment, and they culminate at the end of the year in the different COP meetings, and treaties are developed and people make plans and that sort of thing, but they are not actually translating into the actions that need to take place at the country level. And I think that it's time for action, and the only way forward, as I see it, is for wise, strategic, youth-driven actions and momentum. Next slide, please. Righto. Well, things are generally known about the overall issues of climate and overall issues of plastics. many people don't recognize that plastics and climate change are very closely linked. During their life cycle, plastics actually contribute between 10 and 13% of greenhouse gas emissions. That's enormous. It's pretty much the same as the vehicles on the road. They get a lot of attention, but the role of plastics has not actually had the attention it should have. So the two are linked, and we should in fact be aware of this. And in Africa in particular, open burning is a huge problem and a major contributor of greenhouse gases. But importantly, it contributes also to obviously air pollution with very severe respiratory implications and human health implications, with literally tens of thousands of people dying every year from the pollution problems based principally on not only burning in dumps such as this in the photograph, but it's sometimes used as fuel in houses and so forth. Next slide, please. So to deal with these issues, the Sustainable Seas Trust launched the Youth Network, and principally because we believe the youth are best placed to take the action and they care most, and the future, of course, is theirs. This is launched with a couple of ministers. There's several here. Minister Hanekom is there as the Minister of Tourism, and also at that stage, Environment and Forestry and Fisheries. And next to him is Minister Neva from Norway, who's Minister of Higher Education, and then me, who's not a minister, but there were others there as well. But this was a very entertaining and lovely function because the 4 young people in the front, they actually conducted a play, a musical play, and song and dance and vigor and physicality. It was marvelous. So we know then, going to the broader context, that the United Nations has called for action regarding plastics and has called for action regarding climate, and it's been very heavily involved in developing treaties and calling for national actions, but those actions are not taking place in most countries. Next slide, please. Right, so research has shown that the primary reason that most countries are not taking action is because they're unsure of what to do and how to go about it. And how to go about it is how to develop and implement action plans. There are many reasons for this, but essentially they need a guide to the way forward. And so Sustainable Seas Trust, in association with many countries of Africa and other organizations from around the world, is putting together a guide to best practice for the development of national and regional action plans to manage plastic waste with a decision-making framework. The decision-making framework is because no country is the same, so we can't have different countries trying to do the same thing, which doesn't necessarily apply. The publication for this is aimed at October this year. But nothing like this is actually taking place for climate. And I think that instead of demonstrating and criticizing governments, we should actually work with them and help them by developing an action plan. I think that possibly the best way forward is for a youth-driven guide to climate action plans in Africa. This could help, particularly as many people are doing in terms of the CVs and so forth, and the achievements that I read about, particularly if you focus on entrepreneurship and economics, because decision makers, those decision makers we need to influence, are more inclined to be influenced by economic evidence than other factors. So that is my encouragement for today, is think of helping countries develop the actions and the action plans that they need to have, with a role on how and where they should implement against the time frame to which they need to be answerable. Thank you very much. My last slide is simply to say thank you to all of you, and I wish you well in this very important series, bringing together, I think, superb people with lots of talent. So thank you very much indeed. Let's back then to you, Tara.
Thank you so much, Tony, for setting the stage and sharing with us about the SST and the Youth Network. I'm going to hand over now to Deirdre DeForce, who's the head of our networker here at SST. Didi, when you're ready.
Okay. Right. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that was very, very nice. Thank you, Tony, for, like Tara said, for setting the scene and really like kind of engaging us with the issues that we're currently facing again. I just wanted to thank everyone that's here today. As Tony said, we looked at some of the panelists and some of the speakers that will be joining us for this series, and it's just so impressive to read about your magnificent achievements and what you're doing towards mitigating plastic pollution and changing, or like having an effect on climate change and trying to mitigate that. So yeah, like Tara said, I work for the Sustainable Seas Trust. And today really I want to be talking to you about networking and how we can work together and connect to share the information that is required to achieve this enormous task, which is to manage our plastic in Africa better. So I'm going to be telling you about the African Marine Waste Network, which is a program of the Sustainable Seas Trust, which serves Africa by developing an active consortium of people and organizations that want to work together within the countries of Africa, but also across borders, to help the people of Africa to develop and implement better waste management and waste management strategies. Currently, our network has multiple members, both on our mapping platform, which I'll be speaking to in a while, but generally within the network that we roll out various of the initiatives that SST is currently doing. And we have such a wide variety of people that have joined from all over Africa, from different sectors. So just a couple of the sectors that we have within the network includes the education, academia sectors. We have the facilitation agencies. We have the formal waste sector and the informal waste sector. We have government, we have industry associations, NPOs, media, really across sectors, people that are trying to change and to move Africa towards zero plastic services. And then the primary question that this platform or this network is trying to answer is who is doing what where in Africa, so that we can start learning from each other, so we can start communicating, so we can start collaborating, so that our impact can be that much more impactful essentially and achievable. So how does this network facilitate impact? It really enforces and tries to enable connection and collaboration. It raises awareness and promotes education initiatives, and it assists governments in planning. As Tony showed you, one of the things that we're really trying to work towards is to have all this conversation that we're having around how we're going to move Africa towards zero plastic to its seas, and have it captured in an action plan and actionable items, so that we can start manifesting that change. So what are the benefits of this type of network? It allows for a continental and regional and local view of the plastics economy. It has a geographical view of plastic research and expertise. So what universities are doing, what kind of research, and are they focusing on microplastic research? What recycling stations are close by? What litter monitoring is being conducted and where? What are the policy and economic developments that are taking place within Africa? And what awareness raising and education initiatives are existing? What businesses are there available to partner with? And what are the funding needs? So I'm going to quickly show you the mapping platform, because I always feel that show and tell is better. So if you go onto the Sustainable Seas Trust website, and so if you would want to join the network that will give you all these benefits that I've been speaking to, you would simply go to the Maps and Resources tab and click on the Waste Organizations and Projects link, and it'll bring you to this web page. And this is the African Marine Waste Network mapping platform. So what I've been speaking to is basically this platform is an online hub of all the stakeholders within Africa working towards zero plastics to the seas. And it has a very functional ability to showcase these role players. So once you click on an icon, you can actually see what organizations exist within different regions, what their name is and what their primary expertise is, what are they doing. So this, for example, is Setamada. They're in Madagascar. They're doing science and research. Their primary expertise is meso, macro, and megaplastics. They're an NGO, but they also have different education endeavors that they're doing within their communities. Where do they work? Do they work only in the ocean space or also in rivers? There's options to showcase if you're doing cleanups in urban areas, etc. What type of waste you're dealing with, and if you're involved in community outreach. And then, of course, we also have the focal contact point of that organization with the information required to contact this individual. So this is the platform that you would essentially be joining to join the African Marine Waste Network. And what we're wanting to do within the next year is to redesign the platform so that we have a very strong youth component added to it. So the mapping platform I just showed you, currently it has quite a general or like broad sector division. And we wanted to make it more interactive and more accessible to the youth. So what we're wanting to do is to redesign this website so that there's actually space for youth to blog about the organizations that they're part of and what those organizations are doing outside of the metadata, which is that little block that popped up when I clicked on the icon. Outside of that, to actually have space on the website for people to report in detail on what their organizations are busy with. We also want to kind of create advertising space. Advertising is probably not the right word, but to showcase if the organization has upcoming events or interesting activities that the youth can join. We also want to have monthly featured articles on organizations and people such as yourselves doing amazing work. And then on the actual map, we would like to include a youth layer, which then showcases youth-led organizations, or youth-focused organizations, as well as universities and schools. And then taking that step further, as this is an information sharing network, we would like to enable a component where you can actually access education material or training material or various other documents that would help us to plan better towards zero plastics to the seas of Africa. So really making it a much more functional platform with services and benefits to help you do what you do. Okay. And to join at the moment is really easy. You'll just go to that website that I was showing you. And there's a form when you scroll down, and you'll just fill in very simply the information of your organization, and our mapper would automatically add you to the map. Okay, and that's all from me today. Thank you very much, Tara.
Thank you so much, Deirdre, for outlining all the networking aspects we have here at SST. It's great to see the platform that we have to put people in contact with one another across the continent. We're going to hand over now to Anga, who is the coordinator of our African Youth Waste Network that our series is linked to. I'm going to bring up the slides now, and then Anga, whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you so much, Didi. And I hope you, Didi, has really sparked interest into the maps and being involved with the youth with the network. And I'm truly hoping that you guys are thinking about it and you'll scan and join the network. So just a brief background about myself is that I'm the African Youth Waste Network Coordinator, and I've literally been scouting all these amazing speakers that are coming up soon. You guys are really truly doing amazing things throughout the country, and I'd really love to engage more with you all to just work towards implementing a lot of the ideas that you guys have. So let's go straight into the next slide, please. So just a brief background about Sustainable Seas Trust, so you guys understand why we're doing this and how we're doing it as well. So that Sustainable Seas Trust is a science-based organization, but it branches out into 4 other pillars that make up Sustainable Seas Trust, which will be our research department, your economics and development, our communications and networking, and then last but not least, our education department. These 4 pillars really, truly make SST so different from a lot of organizations that you see on the internet or websites or networks that you guys have been exposed to. And so don't ever limit yourself into thinking that this is the only department, which is education. There's so many other things that you can be exposed to and learn if you just reach out to us. We're willing to support you in all those different pillars in the best way that we can. And that's through data sharing, information sharing, and just looping you in with the conversation that we're currently going through. Next slide, please. And the work that we do at Sustainable Seas Trust is truly very important because it does touch on over 10 of the United Nations goals that are listed above. Please do not mind that it's written in another language. But basically, these are some of the goals that we all touch on with our work that we do. Next slide, please. I feel like a lot of people here already know the crisis that we're living in. You see it on your streets, you see it traveling, you see it at schools, and it's very disheartening that the current situation of plastic is it's building up to a certain nightmare in other parts of the world. And I truly believe that there's no one else that's going to save us but ourselves. And as youth, and as you guys are, what you guys are currently doing is doing exactly that, is saving ourselves and our environment. So I'm not going to state the figures, you guys know, but definitely it is a global crisis and it needs immediate attention, not just from government, but it really starts from the grassroots levels. And I'm really proud and happy to know a lot of people that are here in this call, and unfortunately some of them are not here currently, is that they are actively becoming heroes in their own respective workplaces, schools, organizations, and countries. Next slide, please. And as you know, the waste management and climate challenges in Africa really do not have anything that's aligned with Africa. There's no curriculum. And I'm very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about youth. And I truly believe that the best way to give a youth a platform is through education. And education is truly important because it opens your mind up to different possibilities and opens your mind up to different tools and skills that you can use to tackle waste management and climate change. And I think this is very important, that it's not just written by a fraction of African places, but really implemented, and people throughout the country and continent are all working towards a very diverse and climate change policy and networking tool, please. Next slide, please. So basically, what we do with the Youth Network is we try create the passion, the awareness, create the spark, the energy towards these climate change and waste management issues that we face. And above here, some of the work that has been done throughout the years, from committees that have been launched to arts, music, festivals that have been done, and a lot of cleanups that the youth are participating in. And I've just realized from the work that we've done is that the youth are eager and they come showing in numbers. And I feel like the more support we give them, truly the more change we'll see in everything that we do. Next slide, please. So obviously there's a lot of challenges that we're currently facing, and that is one of the first ones, is that the different social economic dynamics. And Africa being such a large continent, the social economic dynamics are totally not the same. And dialogues like this are very important, so we know what's currently happening in your country and how are you guys dealing with it, so that we can take from you the same way you can take from us, and we create this knowledge around these issues if we are constantly dialoguing, communicating about what are you currently facing and how that works in your respective country. As we said, not all countries have proper structure and resources and systems in place. Therefore, it makes the process of recycling, climate change, and waste management so much more difficult. But I know that so many youth and are coming up with innovative ways, and I'm truly keen and excited to hear what are these innovative ways and how you guys are doing them. And more than anything, more dialogues like this shouldn't be just around us that are currently doing the work, but we should be really reaching out to other markets of people that are not really exposed to our type of thinking. And I'm truly hoping that we can really branch out this network and not just stick with us professionals in this current industry. So next slide, please. And these are just some of the pictures that I got from Greenpeace. They have a work book, Greenpeace blog that they did. And they were just showing some current pictures in various countries in Africa, from the Democratic Republic of Congo, to Kenya, to Nigeria. And it all looks the same. You would swear this is from the same area. And it's very alarming that these images are not just happening in South Africa, but across the country and across the continent as well. Next slide, please. And this is basically something I really want to share, and I think it's really important, and just also your frameworks and how you think about presenting yourselves to people. Because I see everyone on this call as focal points. A lot of the speakers and panelists that we have through this webinar, I see them as focal points. You guys are the go-to people. That's how you should see yourselves in your country, that when someone's talking about plastic or climate change, they look to you. And when they look to you, I'm truly hoping that you're able to follow some protocol and standard that is aligned to what the government wants, so because it's easier to plug in your own planning, and also to access funding and stuff like that, and access projects and dialogues and webinars. If we're all aligned, it truly works better. So a lot of this information is all linked in this presentation, and it comes from the WWF manual that they did for plastics in Africa. And more than anything, that what I really want to say is that we really need to adopt a common framing of plastic pollution that is aligned, not just in your respective country, but throughout the continent. We need to really commit to a clear and wide vision with common standards and actions. We really need to create enabling socioeconomic environments, think about the grassroots level people, think about the small, medium businesses, think about the high level businesses. In everything that you do, just create that target market throughout those three spheres of targets, of markets. And then we also need to ensure accountability in everything that we do. So make sure that you're meeting the right people and you're documenting this properly, and you have all the research verified, and double check it. And if you don't know certain things, I truly think that you can access a lot of information on the website as well, on SST and other websites like WWF and Plastics SA. And then we also need to prioritize actions to address the current leakage and hotspots that we're currently facing. And I'm truly hoping that you guys on this call will participate in a lot of the talks that are currently happening. There's a lot of dialogue, especially with the COP27 happening in Egypt. There's a lot of opportunities for people like you to speak there and let your voices be heard. And while doing this, just always be mindful of the opportunities and how to incorporate what you're doing with what the government wants to do, and working hand in hand to make this achievable. And more than the last 3 points is that also I want to we need to strengthen existing value chains of industries. And also we need to launch and implement behavior change programs. And for me, that is definitely education. And just be very mindful of how important education is in everything that you do, and definitely slot that in all your presentations going forward. Next slide, please. So I will just want to close with the 3 C's that are very important for us to really put the youth on the map, putting African youth on the map, is that we really need to connect firstly and collaborate and create. We need to connect through networks like this, platforms like the online platform that Deirdre spoke about earlier, through webinars, through emails. Don't be shy to some of the names that I'm seeing here that I haven't seen before, to send us your emails, send us an email telling us who you are, what you do, and how that you can be included into the map as well. We also need to collaborate on projects, research, presentations, and frameworks. There's so much work that's already been out there. There's no need to duplicate the work. We can definitely come together and collaborate on issues that I might not know that you know better, and I can reach out to you. And platforms like the map make this so much easier because I can connect with someone in Nigeria that knows about open fire waste, and I can definitely use his proper information, and he can definitely do that presentation, you know. So definitely tell us what you're doing, how you're doing it, and that's going to be the best way for us to collaborate. And last but not least is definitely to create. After you've connected and collaborated, we need to create. As Tony said, he would love to see a youth-driven policy. And I believe in that. We should be writing these policies, we should be creating these frameworks and presenting it, and not waiting on government to select you, but actually you becoming government for your own area and creating these frameworks and policies that are aligned with the vision for Africa. And I also want to promote that we need to create youth festivals around this to create a spark in Africa, and campaigns that are very important to make people more involved in plastic waste and climate change. And I'm truly hoping that going forward we'll have more numbers for the events, and just to spark that interest, not just with our circles, but the extended circles that we have. Next slide, please. And yeah, I'd love to close with a quote by Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, it was actually Nelson Mandela Day in South Africa just yesterday, so I just found it very fitting to use this quote for today. And he basically says, Utata, that everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. And honestly, everyone on this call and all the speakers that are still yet to come, and panelists are so dedicated and passionate about what they do. And that gives me so much hope for myself and for our future generation. So yeah, thank you so much. You can close my presentation. Tara.
Thank you so much, Anga. It's great to hear about all the opportunities that await for the youth out there, and that's part of the reason why we're so excited about this webinar series that the Youth Network and the African Waste Academy are running together. I don't see any comments in the chat at the moment, or any questions. I see there are some comments saying, great presentation, Dr. Tony, an amazing presentation, Anga. Thank you so much for the feedback. If anyone does have any questions or comments that they'd like to share with us in the chat box at the moment, that would be wonderful. You're more than welcome to do so at this time. If you haven't yet already registered for on the next webinar in our series, which will be taking place on Thursday this week, we encourage you to do so. We're very excited about our next lineup of speakers. So this will be happening on this Thursday, the 21st of July. So if you haven't already registered, please feel free to do that now. If you would like to reach out to us at a later stage, you're welcome to. We're looking to really facilitate dialogues amongst the youth here. As you've seen, we have quite an extensive network and an active youth program. We can close things off here for today, but if anyone has any questions or comments, you're welcome to contact us. That's great. I see one of our speakers for Thursday has commented, looking forward to it. We're very excited. You're welcome to register. All the information about our upcoming series are on the SST events page. So you're welcome to share it, to promote it. The more the merrier, and we're very excited for the next 3 sessions in our series. So I think we can close off here for today, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.